and welcome back to Let's Bark About It. Today we have a very special guest with us, or guests. I'd like to introduce Cory Parrish. He's the OPP Canine Officer, and his partner, Yukon.
Okay.
Hi, Cory. Thanks for coming.
You're quite welcome.
Yukon, thank you for coming. So, Cory, if you could just tell me, what's your role within the OPP, yours and Yukon's?
Okay, I'm designated as a canine handler for the Ontario Provincial Police. I've been with the OPP's canine unit now for about 4 years, and my responsibility is to take care of and maintain Yukon, who's my police service dog, and we go through some rather extensive training. Takes about 6 months to take a dog that's got no training and get him up to the speed that we need him to be as far as what's required of the dog, and at which point we go into service, and from there we hope to get about 6 or 7 years of service out of these dogs.
So 6 months of training. So you do all of the training with Yukon, and
That's correct.
so right from when he's a pup.
We actually get the dogs when they're about age 2 because they like the dogs to be physically and mentally mature and able to take on the tasks that we need them to do,
Okay.
as well as be physically developed enough to handle the amount of workload that we do with these dogs.
So how do they determine, before 2 years old that he would be fit for this kind of service?
So there are special agencies out there that actually breed these dogs for security purposes, and whenever we're in need of a new dog for a handler, we send the training unit staff goes down and they actually look at these dogs. They run them through a series of tests and screening processes, and there's certain things they're looking for in their personality and their drive of the dogs, and they pick and choose the best of the dogs that they can get, and they bring them back and put them on course.
So where did Yukon come from?
Yukon came from the Czech Republic.
All the way from the Czech Republic.
Yeah, he is a European bred dog.
So does he have Canadian status at this point?
I'm not sure what they do with his pedigree on that, but he is pedigreed.
So tell me a little bit about the training that you did together. I know that it's very extensive, and you're away, is it in Elmer?
It's down in Orillia and Gravenhurst.
Right.
And so when we go down there, our basic course, the general service course, starts with working on the obedience of the dog and getting the dog to follow commands and instructions. It's like anything, if the dog doesn't listen to the handler, then they're not a very effective team. After they get the obedience down packed, then we start working on the human scent with the dogs, and that's learning how to track people, both good guys and bad guys. The dog doesn't distinguish between good guys or bad guys when he's tracking. All he knows is he's tracking a human scent. As well, he's trained to identify articles, evidence, pieces of clothing and stuff that the persons have handled and have tossed away, so we can actually look for articles of evidence that have been thrown into fields or into bush lots. And then there is an aggression component where these dogs are trained because they may need to be used to apprehend violent or aggressive criminals, and when we don't have any other means to apprehend them in an efficient manner, the dogs are utilized for that purpose.
So, and is there, I've been told that there's a portion that you have to spend in the bush with them as well.
Yeah, we do. We do a lot of time in the bush with the dogs, hence the uniform that I wear.
Yeah.
Our organization has deemed us to be wanting to be operationally prepared and ready to go at any given time because we are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So our primary uniform now is the OD green to help blend in with our environment.
So what region do you serve then?
I'm primarily based out of the district of Thunder Bay, so my primary area goes from the edge of White River to the English River, and from the U.S. border up to Fort Severn.
Wow. So you guys are called out on calls all throughout that area?
Yes, we work a regular 40-hour week schedule, plus we are deemed to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because there's so few of us up in this northwest region, there's actually only 3 dog teams. Yukon and I are based out of Thunder Bay. There's 1 dog team based out of Kenora and 1 dog team based out of Fort Frances.
Wow.
And when one of those other teams is away on either vacation leave or away on training leave, the other handlers have to pick up the slack and cover that area.
So we were talking briefly about one of the more exciting calls that you and Yukon have been on. Do you want to just maybe tell our audience a little bit about that story in December?
Absolutely. It happened about a year ago, and we were involved in trying to apprehend a fugitive that was coming up from the Toronto area, and he had stolen a number of motor vehicles. He committed a bunch of break-and-enters along the way. He'd been involved in some pursuits and actually had dragged an officer for a short distance, and the officer, thank goodness, was not hurt in the incident. At the end of the day, we had a sighting of the fella just outside of Nipigon by the Stillwater River, and Yukon and I were brought in, and we had a backup team of 3 emergency response team members, and we started our track, and
In the bush?
it
On
started
foot?
at the edge of the road in the bush,
Oh, okay.
and we started working down that way. We ended up coming into a river. We were in about knee-deep water and went about 30 or 40 meters down the middle of the river. Then the Yukon pulled up onto the bank onto the left side of the river, and we found a fresh footprint up there and continued tracking. Throughout the track, we ended up finding a few articles of clothing and stuff. At 2 different points on the track, the fellow that we were chasing actually stole bicycles and took off on bicycles throughout the trails, and we ended up continuing the track and found both bicycles and recovered those. I ended up, after about the first 2 or 3 kilometers, we ended up training out my backup team and got in 3 fresh bodies, and Yukon and I kept in the track, and we kept working, and we ended up going up on top of the escarpment that overlooks Nipigon, and worked our way back down the other side, came into the edge of the community again. At that point, we traded out my second backup team and got a 3rd backup team of fresh bodies, so 3 fresh bodies as our backup team, and Yukon and I kept on it, and we tracked for a few more kilometers, ended up getting back on another trail and going back up on top of the escarpment again, and at that point, our bad guy was actually hiding about 20 meters into the bush off the side of the trail, and Yukon pulled right to him.
Wow.
And as we were getting close, one of my backup officers spotted him before we made contact, and when we challenged the bad guy, he surrendered without incident. And
So how many hours were you out there on this pursuit with Yukon?
for that track there, the total distance we covered was about 10.53 kilometers, so we had worked for probably close to 3 hours on that track,
Yeah.
pushing and chasing the guy.
Which is still, I mean, that's pretty quick to
Yeah.
nail that guy.
Yeah,
Right?
and-
In 3 hours time. So when Yukon is working and he's on a call or you're in the public or, and there's people around, are people allowed to interact with Yukon? Are they allowed to pet him?
As a general rule, we say no to all the police dogs because they do have that level of aggression trained into them.
Yep.
The dogs are very, very well trained and well behaved for the most part, and but just as a liability reason, we generally do not let them interact too much with the public.
But you must be asked a lot.
Yes, anytime we do demonstrations, presentations, or if we're out in the public, everybody always sees the dogs, and because he looks so well behaved and nice, everybody does want to come up and see him and pet him and play
Yeah.
with him and give him big hugs.
And he loves people and he loves other dogs as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah, he's not dog aggressive by any means, unless the other dog challenges him, and then it's game on.
Right. So, I mean, Yukon's sitting here and crying right now because we have another doggy guest that's out in the hall that Yukon's already met, that Yukon would love to meet again. Up next, we have with us a therapy dog, which is different from a service dog, and we'll explain how that is. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming, Cory.
Thank you.